I think practice assignment and configure a basic plan to resolve an on-premise storage problem. Okay, I'll come to this section later. First of all, we need to get into the AWS account, and then I'll show you that time what are the different basic plans and all this stuff. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And coming to the next slide here, designing hybrid storage. So if you're coming to the hybrid storage, yesterday we talked about, the hybrid storage, which we would be using in the applications, right? It will be high to medium-sized LFM. There is any, they have any aging storage solution which you wanted to replace. Typically, like if you have some, if you have some storage, if you want to host any application, so you do the designing at the starting of the thing, right? So you have to have like understanding of if there is several terabytes of data and composing of documents, images, and what is the latency that you wanted the data to respond when you're querying the data. And all these things will be assessed and can be archived, right? So and we need to understand what is the duration of the data that we wanted to archive into the cloud, and what are the most recent files needed available whenever if there is any transaction happening, and all this information to be that we would be designing in the hybrid storage. Like if there is a different kind of like a basic and high level plan for hybrid storage solutions, and we would be choosing the plans based on the user requirement. So based on the service, yesterday also we discussed about, based on the service that we are opting in the cloud, we would be charged to that particular amount in the cloud, right? So that details will look into. So we are done with this session, this section. So we'll see what are the key takeaways from what we learned on the couple of earlier slides.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about architecture frameworks and how it will help, and what are the pros and cons of taking any decisions while you're designing or building a system on AWS. And the architecture framework also, we talked about the four pillars like security, reliability, performance, efficiency, and the cost optimization at the initial slides. And we even talked about cloud computing, how it helps archive optimal server configurations, and what are the different features which is giving it to the customer when anybody wants to use the AWS as a cloud computing, right, services. And you can even, we discussed also like how the CloudWatch, CloudTrail, and the AWS config provide alerts and notifications. What are the different scenarios also we talked about, in which scenario it will give alert and notifications, like email alerts and notifications if there is any threshold hits the maximum threshold, and taking the server picture and storing it in AWS different services, right? And with hybrid technologies also, we even talked about like how it is going to exist your on-premise network, and how do we configure and get your on-premise network into the AWS cloud virtual platform, which is your VPC, AWS VPC. This also we talked about. And we even talked about like the architecture framework, how it going to help you to understand the pros and cons decision while building your AWS services. I think I believe the same content was repeated. Okay, the same content was repeated. Sorry, I think I need to notify Jason about
Mm-hmm.
it. Yeah, okay, coming to the quiz. So we have few more questions here. What should you look at? Find documentation about AWS architecture. I think yesterday we talked about where we can find this architecture information. So do you have anything in mind, Patrick?
Um, this documentation, no white papers. Um, to tell you the truth, I might have issues with this, but I might use the white papers because
Okay. It has a multiple answers. You can
Because
choose multiple answers. Yes.
yeah, okay. I don't believe it will be case studies. It will not be case studies. Uh, I will also use C and D. C and D.
Okay. Okay. I think yesterday, if I remember correctly, so we talked about. I have shown you the AWS Architecture Center, how it looks like, and also
Yeah, yes,
I have told
you showed me.
couple of white papers like showing the scenarios of how a particular service will be used and how different services have it will be
No,
used in a
yeah,
real-time scenario.
no, I wanted to say B and D, not C. Like I took the white papers. Like yeah,
Mhm.
B and D. For me, I would choose that too. But
Okay, B and D.
if A is one of the answer, that's good.
Yeah, I think in my opinion, I think like we'll get the documentation about architecture on the architecture center,
Yeah,
even white papers, and also case studies which I showed you like Netflix and all that images, right?
yeah. I saw
What
those
are
Netflix,
used.
but I didn't
Mhm.
know that. I saw the Netflix, but I didn't know that you can use case
Okay.
studies for information.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, quick reference documents. Okay, we'll see that. One second. Okay, it's architecture center, white papers, and case studies ABC.
Okay,
The quick reference deployments will be used only for how do you deploy it, but it doesn't talk about much on the AWS architecture.
okay,
So the architecture will be well explained in the architecture center, white papers, and the case studies. So in the
okay,
real-time problem, if you talk about Netflix scenario, that is the case scenario. What is the problem statement? How AWS has solved those problems is one
okay,
of the
okay.
case.
Yeah,
And the white
good.
papers will be talking about different instances that all the instances that we have in AWS, right? The services.
Yeah,
So it talks about more on the service, how it is going to help you, and what are the business that can support, and AWS architecture, how it is like what are the components which are used here. So I think these three are the answers. Okay, I think that's what the explanation for this question.
okay.
Yeah, anyway, you tried well, Patrick. Yeah, that's good. Coming to the next one, what services does AWS quick start reference deployments use? So yeah, it's easy to container, CloudFront, CloudFormation, and RDS.
Which service does um cloud formation? I will go with the A. I know A is
Okay.
how to create instances. You E they said Elastic Commute Cloud Container Services. Cloud front is cloud formation, and then RDS. That's the storage. Which tools are storages? No, which service does ASW Quick Start Reference Deployment use? Deployment. Okay, I'll go with the CloudFront.
CloudFront, huh? Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, so the question here is AWS Quick Start reference deployments use. So deployments and everything, it's a responsibility of a cloud formation.
Okay,
So this is for the storage, and this is also easy to
start.
inst
Yeah,
cloud instance.
yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, we'll see that the cloud formation.
Cloud
So
formation.
CloudFormation is used to rapidly deploy fully functional environment for a variety of enterprise software applications. So for the deployment purpose, we would be using a CloudFormation service from the AWS instances.
Okay, for
Okay.
deployment purpose, cloud
Yeah.
formation.
Right.
Okay, for deployment purposes. Okay.
Right. Right. We have one more question here, which is which of these is not a benefit of cloud computing? So this is in general. It's not even I mean about AWS. So in general, which is not a benefit of cloud computing.
Which is not a benefit.
Yeah,
I
which is
know.
not a benefit.
I know cost efficiency is a benefit.
Yeah.
Uh, global deployment. Global deployment. I remember when you talked about um, when you talked about is it load balancing, where the people are in when people are in two different areas or two different zones, you bring, I don't know whether that is bringing it was not load balancing, where you do aggregate, where you bring this thing together with one key. I don't know whether global deployment will be, and dynamic scaling. I know scalability is uh, fixed capacity. I know cost efficiency
One
is
of
a
the benefit,
benefit,
right?
and then it's easy. Yeah, I know it's easy to fix capacity. It's easy to fix. There's a reliability. Global deployment. I have. Uh, I'm sure I will go with B, because scaling. I don't know the meaning of dynamic scaling, but I know we talk about scalability, which is like is one of the, you can take large volumes of
Right.
data. So I might go with B, but I don't really know. I'll go with B.
B, right?
Yeah,
Okay. Okay, B, okay. So I'll tell you. So the benefits, I'll explain each and everything here. The dynamic
yeah,
scaling. So the dynamic scaling is, dynamically it's without human intervention, that, system should be capable enough to scale up and scale down.
yes,
So this is one of the feature. Okay, that's
yeah,
what the scaling, dynamic scaling is all about
yeah,
talking.
yeah,
And the global deployments. So you are somewhere in Latin America or North America, and
yeah,
you wanted to deploy some code in the Singapore virtual cloud, right? So you can do
yeah,
that. So the global deployment is also one of the benefit. And coming to the cost efficiency, like it's a very cost effective, that we know that we can use the services, how much that you
yeah.
are using, you can pay for it, pay as you use, right?
Okay,
And fixed capacity. So the fixed capacity, we are not talking about some fixed capacity in the cloud computing. This is not a benefit actually. Why? Because
okay,
we talk about I mean scaling up, scaling down, or how many, I mean we can even horizontally scale up, vertical scaling, horizontal
yeah,
scaling, all this stuff. So this is
mhm,
not this is the odd one out, like not a benefit of the cloud computing. So
okay.
fixed capacity, yeah, fixed
Sorry
capacity is
about
as
that.
it's like
Yeah, I
it's
tried to analyze it before I do it, but I didn't get it.
no problem, no problem. We are in a stage of learning, Patrick, so no problem. So the fixed capacity, which is like in the traditional IT infrastructure only, we talk about, okay, I need this much space. I told you right yesterday,
Yeah,
if you're buying some 500 TB storage, whether either you use it or not, the 500 TB, but you have to go and pay for that 500 TB at single shot, right? But
yeah,
if you are using only 1 TB and the remaining 499 TB is not in use, but you are already paying for the 499, which is not required for you to save something. So that's a yeah, that's we call it as a fixed capacity. That is not the benefit
okay,
of cloud computing.
okay.
Okay, yeah. The next question here is what does vertical scaling mean? So yesterday we talked about horizontal scaling and the vertical scaling. So with that, would you be able to guess the answer here?
Well, I know vertical scaling, you said you get another one. With
Right,
horizontal, you add resources to it and pay not as much as you with vertical, you increase another one for the same price.
right.
With horizontal, you add resources to it and pay per resource, not as much as Vertical. So increasing the monitoring of a resource, increasing the monitoring of a resource, increasing the number of resource, increasing the specification of resource of a resource, increasing the number of application on a resource. My answer is between. I don't understand the number of resource. No,
Okay.
specific. I will go, the number. I will have problem with the B because you said the number of the resource, and then C said increasing specification of a resource. Specification.
Okay. Yeah.
So I will go with C because you said the same resource is like the same thing, but only that I
Vertical
will go.
scaling.
Yeah, I'll go with C, but between the answer is between B and C, but B is my best answer.
Right, correct. So let's say if you're buying some machine or like mobile, for example, in a simple terminology, lemon
Yeah,
terminology. So somebody will ask you what is the specifications about it. They don't ask you what is the number of the RAM in it, right? So
yeah, yeah.
specification, right word that you have to use it here. So C is the right answer.
Okay.
Right. So it's C. Good, Patrick. We'll go to the next
Yeah,
question.
yeah,
What
what
is a
is it?
stateless application? Yeah, we discussed about stateful and stateless application along with
Yeah,
examples yesterday.
yeah,
So
I
which one
remember.
is the answer? Yeah,
I remember. You said one
yeah,
that maintains the information based on previous interaction and stores one. Then, yeah, I will go with D now. I know the answer to that one.
right. Yeah, that's correct. So we don't require the previous state of it, and we don't even store the session for the further information. So D is
Yeah.
the right answer.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay, coming to the next question, we have a couple of questions here, Patrick. Which
Yeah.
one is an example of a push model distributing load to multiple loads? Yesterday, we talked about push and pull model in a distributed workload. So, can you guess which is the right service for the push model?
Uh, I don't remember. I don't. To tell you the truth, I have forgotten a lot, but I know the kinesis and gateway. I know. I will use the A elastic load balancer because I don't know how I'm using that push distribution load model, multiple nodes, but I know what you did. Where I can still see the diagram very well,
Hmm.
where you draw three buckets this way, three storages this way, and said
Right.
when one fails, it can still continue to put this thing here. It can recognize, and so I'll go with A.
Yeah, that's correct answer, Patrick, because we talked about push model. So let's say if you are getting more request, if the
Yeah,
existing service is not in a position to take that request, automatically the load balancer will create one more server and
yeah,
route the new request to the third one or the fourth one, the
yeah.
additional one. So the A is
So
the
what is
correct
the
answer.
answer?
Yeah,
It's
load
A, is
balancer
that
is the
right?
correct
Yeah,
answer. Yes.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, coming to the next question, which of these components is not stateful by definition?
Which of these component is not stateful by definition? Um, the reason is we haven't. Did we talk about lambda? I don't believe. I don't remember us talking about the lambda. We talk about Dynamo database. Those are storages. I'll go with B here.
Which is RDS, right?
No, I said RDS is RDS resilient distributed storage. Is that right?
No, actually,
Oh,
here I'll tell you. Let's say if you're going with the application running on a single server, so which means the application having the connection, which is a stateful connection. Otherwise, if
Okay.
you're doing some interaction with kind of a credit card payment or something, you'll not get any response from the server, right? So you have to have the
Okay. Okay.
stateful.
Yes.
And
Okay.
DynamoDB also, let's say if you're querying something from the database, let's say where the employee, maybe uh, experience is more than 20 years or something, which you wanted to query it from the database, that is also
Yeah.
having state, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Similarly, RDA is also storage. So you have to have the storage, I mean, stateful sessions here.
Yeah.
When it comes to the Lambda, we talked about Lambda is an architecture, right?
Yeah.
So
Lambda is the
it
architecture.
takes it takes both, batch operations as well as, if any kind of a streaming thing which you wanted to support, Lambda
Yeah.
architecture is the one which we go for it, right? So
Okay.
AWS Lambda is the right answer here.
Okay. Oh, Lambda is the right answer.
Yes.
Okay. Can you explain it again?
Yeah, that's what. Yesterday we were talking about, two states. I mean, whenever, if you go by elimination method, whenever you need the stateful session, which is you need a state of the particular request, right? When you're running something on the server, application running on a server, okay, you have some
Yeah.
banking application which is running on the server, and you
Yeah.
are making some credit card payment. You entered all
Mm-hmm.
your credit card details and getting that information back to your, payment gateway, right? So in
Yeah.
that case, it has to take that, information to the server and return back to that, whether it is right credit card authenticated or not, you have to get the session back, which is a
Yeah.
stateful. And
Yes.
here the
Stateful. Yeah.
question is not stateful, right? So this is not the one. It has a
Okay.
stateful information. When it comes to DynamoDB, RDS, these two are storages, right?
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
whenever we are working with the storage things, we have to have, let's say when you're querying something where employee information equal to something, right? Where employee salary equal to some X. So it has to go to the database and find out whether the employee salary greater than X and get that records back to your application, right? So you have to have the connection, stateful connection here also, as well as in the RDS also. The only
Okay.
left out thing is, which is, AWS Lambda. One second, Patrick, one second. Yes, Patrick, I'm back.
Okay.
Yeah, so it requires all these three sections here requires the stateful information. When it comes to the AWS Lambda architecture, yesterday we talked about it does both batch operations, which means you don't require any confirmation from the server. You just run the batch and get some specific thing to be done and store it into the database. You don't require any kind of a response from the database. So that's where this Lambda architecture will come into picture. This we have discussed about in Lambda architecture yesterday, which is doesn't require any state